So welcome to our meeting room slash webinar on how to increase margins through more profitable work. My name is Adam Linneman, and Sarah is also here with us today as well. We are both from the Green Executive Peer Group and Consulting Firm. Sarah and I are both certified Profit First professionals and LMN certified consultants. Our guest today is Ryan and Nicole Quigley from the Gardner, Peterborough, Ontario, Canada. Is that how that all flows together?
Perfect. That's it.
Awesome. So we'll go ahead and get started again on how to increase margins through more profitable work, and we'll get allow Ryan and Nicole Quigley to go ahead and do a quick introduction of themselves. It's all up to you guys.
All right. So Ryan and Nicole Quigley from Peterborough. Ryan and I started this business just over 12 years ago. It was October 2008 that we started it. It was just him and I. Well, actually, it was just me. He was still at his full-time job, so we took over another gentleman's business. I kind of ran with it, got to the point that it was too much for myself. So Ryan ended up quitting his job the following year and jumped on. We just kind of put both feet forward and knew that this was something we had to take and run with it. In 2014, we had our first child, Caden, who is now almost 7. And then we joined the Gardner, which is a franchise in Canada. It's out in Calgary, it's out east in Halifax and mainly in Ontario. So we got bigger, then we joined the Gardner Peterborough with our existing business. So kind of doubled the business and then continued to grow every year since. We have a daughter as well named Aubrey, who is 5. And yeah, we're busy parents and busy entrepreneurs and just been busy.
I'm curious, and I don't know if I've ever asked you guys this, but what did you do before you were in the landscaping business? Did you guys have any other careers before that?
That's a good question. I'm a licensed mechanic by trade and worked in parts and service departments in local dealerships.
And I was in the horse world. I was a horse farm manager, and my life was horses, and kind of got to the point where it wasn't profitable enough. So got out of that, and we were looking for something to start on our own, and the landscape business came up, and we kind of thought that might be a good idea to get into.
That's awesome. I think I do remember that Ryan, that you were a mechanic beforehand. So I'm glad you reminded us though. So thank you.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So tell us a little bit about how and why you transitioned to offering maybe some more landscaping services from what you had offered previously. We'd love to all hear more on that.
There's a lot of behind the scenes with it. It's not something that happens overnight by any means. Talking to local peers, being part of peer groups, things like that really helped open our eyes as far as what we were doing and what was available out there for us. When we started, it was fairly easy to do mowing, regular maintenance, things like that. And when it was just the two of us, it was hard to find the time to do extra add-on jobs. We were just, running crazy, just trying to keep up with the work that we had, but never really made any money, just worked long hours and just kept repeating the same thing. As we grew, added staff, and had time to expand more, we evolved and were able to find things that, our customers were willing to do, things that we could market. And then the big thing with the odd jobs was the availability for us to sell our time and mark that up, and then as well sell materials, whether it be, plants or mulch or stone or lumber, which is kind of a double-edged sword that you can get, hopefully some profit on both sides.
Awesome. So do you guys still offer gardening services or mowing services? And if so, tell us a little bit about that and why you're choosing to kind of keep that going. And then how did you transition more into the design build or landscaping services?
So this coming season, we're looking to have 2 mowing crews again, and we're going to have 2 garden crews. One garden crew will be mainly maintenance, and the other one will be split between maintenance and like install and enhancements. I think the reason that we still do it is that it's kind of a crutch or a cushion for us, just because we know that and we have been doing it and can continue to do it. And I think on another end, it helps us. We do get work from some of those clients. People see our trucks and trailers around town. It's good advertisement. I'm not sure that it's something that we'll ever totally get out of the maintenance. I'm sure that we'll still continue to do it, but maybe just on a smaller scale. And then as far as transitioning goes, there's a lot of different avenues, just from upselling to our current clients, getting new clients that only want construction work over maintenance work. And then we've started pushing more heavily with the advertising as well, just to advertise that type of work more so than the maintenance work.
Sure. One of the things that we talked on when we did a webinar earlier with Ron Edmonds of the Principium Group, who specializes in green industry mergers and acquisitions, was, maintenance work also is valuable to a company for perhaps long-term for sale. So if you have reoccurring contracts and you can prove and show that you have a good retention rate of your clients, that is also something that can bring value to a company. However, I think you would agree that a lot of the design build projects, though, typically you can have a little bit more increased profit margins on. Would you agree to that?
Certainly.
Yeah.
And depending on the projects and clients, it can turn into reoccurring work too. A lot of people start with smaller projects, but have, a bigger idea for their property. And, you just start with baby steps in a small project, and it will continue on through the season or through a couple of seasons potentially.
Word of mouth is also fairly big around here. We're a fairly big community, but you do a good project for someone and that gets around with word of mouth as well. So
Absolutely.
Yes.
So on your maintenance services that you do still offer, has there been anything that you've done to increase your margins there, to make sure that those services are still profitable or continue to be profitable?
We're still learning, and there's still probably more that we can do. Probably route density is probably one of the biggest things for us.
I love that.
Travel time, load and unload time is just an absolute killer when it comes to maintenance work. So the more time that the crew or the equipment is actually producing, the better. Equipment that's efficient, trying to find equipment that we can use multiple seasons, or at least try to get 8 or 10 months, maybe 12 months out of a piece of equipment. If you have anything.
that's pretty much it. We used to do some properties out of town that we're thinking, oh, this is great, it's a big acreage or something, but when you have to drive 40 minutes out of town to do it, you got 2 people in a truck, fuel wear and tear, it's just not worth it. So we've tried to keep our routes more dense, keep them within the city of Peterborough or the very close outskirts, and
learning and knowing your numbers as well, with help with the Green Executive software like LMN. If you look at your numbers, it's unfortunate, but sometimes you have to part ways with a client if it's not profitable. If you know your numbers, maybe you can adjust the pricing so that you are profitable with a slight to modest increase. And sometimes it's a hard decision, but you do have to part ways, like I said.
Yeah. It's funny because you come from a place where you're so hungry for work when you start out, and it's so hard to say no to someone, but then as time goes on and you really hone in on who you are as a company and who your clients are, and take a look at those numbers when they're available to you, it makes it a lot easier to say no.
Sarah, I was just actually going to ask you to maybe mention a little bit about time and why it's so important to capture every bit of that as possible as billable time. If you can talk just, for 2 minutes on that real quick.
Yeah, I just think that, like the Quigleys mentioned, when you're able to see what actually you're dealing with, it opens the door to a lot of options. So we use Element Time to track hours for the crews. And that's not only payroll, but it's also hours against a job itself. So at the end of the day, we can sit down and pull those figures out and say, okay, does the amount of time that we spent as a company on this property align with what we thought we would spend when we estimated it? And if it's out of alignment, then that enables us to do a couple things. It can see if we're estimating poorly. Maybe we are not putting enough time on each job routinely, or maybe it's that the field's not executing well. So at least we can then investigate once we have the information available and look at it and say, where's the disconnect? Why what we want to produce as far as income goes on this property? Is it because it was bid poorly, or is it because we're executing poorly? And it could just be that we have some metric wrong. Maybe we did all the motions right as far as estimating goes, but our production rate of how much lawn we think we can mow, how many square footage is how long it takes us to do that, maybe that number's off. But once you have the data available, then you can investigate. It's really hard to track down and pinpoint and address the issue if you're not able to dig into the data and sort that out. So whatever tool that may be, and maybe it's just a conversation with the crews to say, hey, how did the season go? What is this lawn tracking how we want it to track? Is there something going on this property that makes it more or less difficult for you than we anticipated it to be? So a debriefing with the crews can go a long way too.
Their time is our what?
Commodity. Yeah.
And our inventory, right?
Oh, yeah. What we've
So
got.
that's one thing that, we've been talking about for years, is that any landscape business, time is their inventory. That's what they're selling. So as much as you can get out of the employee's day and bill it out, the better off you're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking about employees, it is good to communicate with them, because there is things time to time that you or look past when you're doing a quote that they see on a regular basis if they're doing maintenance or a project. We had most of our crews in this morning just for a little debriefing, how's the season going, any challenges, any struggles, go over equipment, things like that. So as much as it's not billable time, it was still valuable to get the feedback, just to communicate with them, because they're the ones that do a lot of it in the field. So there's a lot for taking a little bit of time just to communicate with the staff.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you definitely want to make sure not shortchange the team on communication, and make sure you're planning right with them all in all reality. Awesome. Let's go to specifically what I want to talk about margins, and are they better in landscaping, have you found, and why is that? What have you found from maintenance side over to the landscaping side? What have you found that you've been able to do with your proposals to help you increase your margins and make you more profitable?
So we're still really trying to hammer out our numbers. We're almost coming up on a year that we've been using LMN, and it's been very helpful for tracking our numbers. I couldn't give you exact percentages right now, but definitely the percentages on the construction and enhancements is definitely better than the maintenance. Again, for a number of reasons, between markup, between even some of the enhancements in construction, it's a little bit more of a skilled job, let's call it. We still need skilled people in our maintenance crews, but some of our construction foremen have years of training and things like that you can relay to the client and upsell on their skills and what they're able to do that way.
With bigger projects too, some of our companies that we use, they'll deliver product for free after a certain amount of products. So you don't have the running around of picking up product or crews driving from house to house. So you're saving on fuel, wear and tear, their time of driving around. And then, yeah, we've been using LMNs. So with these jobs, you can up the profit margin in it. And we still, there's lots of competition and everything, but you don't necessarily have, you know, your neighbor next door with his little lawnmower going around cutting grass. With some of these bigger projects, you need to have the equipment, you need to have the insurance. So there are some landscapers around us, but they're usually full up. So there's a little bit more urge for that, and people will pay when they want a specific job done. So the profit margins are definitely a little bit better on those jobs.
We've been fairly lucky as well. The only thing, you know, that I was cautioned, and I might caution some others, when you get into some of the bigger construction jobs, there is bigger potential for things to go sideways and lose a lot of money as well. So just be careful. I wouldn't jump in too far too fast until, you know, you're comfortable with what you're doing. And I would, you know, double check your numbers and just make sure that you're comfortable when you know, present your client with that proposal, and know that you're comfortable with the time that you're selling and the materials and equipment that you have.
Love it. We were talking briefly before the webinar started on, you know, markup of not only hardscape materials, but plant materials. And then one of the last things that we chatted about was, you know, putting a percentage in there to recover for warranty work. You know, that could be a huge cost to a company if they're not, if they are offering a warranty to a customer, but they're not somehow recovering that percentage of typically how many plants die on a job or in a year, however you want to look at that. But if you're not tracking that properly and making sure you're recovering it, that there can definitely be some lost opportunity there on recovering some costs there as well. We're going to go on to equipment, but before we do so, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to go ahead and send them in the chat down below, and we will definitely try to hit that before we disconnect.
I have one question real quick, Adam, before I hop off. So Ryan, you mentioned that you were in some groups and you found some ways to open your eyes to new services and that. So how were your eyes opened? Like, what caused you to reevaluate things, or what was that eye-opening experience?
I can't honestly tell you that it's one thing. My wife can probably tell you some stories. When I'm not working, yeah. My face is normally on a Facebook page or YouTube or some sort of group. I think most of us here, being entrepreneurs, for some reason, we have a switch or something in us that isn't quite right, and nothing's ever good enough, or we're looking for a different or a better way to do something. So at least that's my reason, and my excuse is just to my own fault. Things just aren't ever good enough for me, and I'm just always looking at a new tool or a new way to do something, or maybe a new group of peers to talk to. Very valuable to get people's failures so you can learn from them, as well as their successes.
Very cool. Yeah. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
All right. So on equipment, tell us a bit about some of that and how is it making you money? Bye, Sarah. Is there any equipment that you realize was a poor purchase, and why? So what I want to do real quick before is I just want to pull up, if I can try to do a quick screen share. So let's talk about this piece of equipment. Can you see that, everybody?
Yes.
So what is that? Is that a snowplow, or is that a fertilizer spreader, or what is that?
So it started its life as a turf enhancement machine for spraying and fertilizing. Company that designed it had an offer for a snow blade for it. So we're lucky enough to be able to use it on sidewalks, and then we can spray our liquid brine, or we can spread ice melter with it. We've actually adopted it with the lift frame for the plow for it. We use it with a dethatcher and an aerator attachment in the summer now. So it's been a nice piece of equipment for us that we can use it not 12 months of the year, but most seasons for us.
That's nice. So that thing is truly universal.
Yes.
That's great. That's we'll touch on this in a little bit, but that's a great tool if you're profit firsting, right?
Yes.
Something that you can use almost all the time. Let's see if I can find the other. Let's see. All right. So what's this guy?
That is one of our little mini dump trucks. We've got two of them. One of them the garden crews use in the summertime. It obviously has sides in the summertime, so they can put their green waste in it to haul away, or soil or mulch. It's got a little work cabinet so they can keep all their tools in it. And it's been awesome for us in the summertime for that. We've got another one that one of our construction crews uses, again, to transport lumber and aggregates and things like that. And in the wintertime, both of them get transformed into liquid de-icing trucks. We are almost completely transitioned to 100% liquid now.
Oh, wow.
And it just helps reduce costs for us, reduce the environmental impact, and we find it does a better, safer, quicker job.
So this liquid brine is something fairly new, though, right? To you guys, maybe like a year or so old, the transition, or a couple years?
This is our second year with these setups.
Okay.
The previous year to that, we tried to make our own in-house maker and a little in-house sprayer just to try it out. Some of this stuff does come with a rather large price tag, and I have somebody to my left, your right, that I need to sign off on all those payments. So, but this will be our third winter with it.
Okay. So with transitioning from, did you used to just use regular granular ice melt, such as salt and things like that, before you had this?
Correct.
How has that changed, kind of like how or what you charge your clients from what you used to do versus using this? Or are you still charging like, hey, I'm going to de-ice your parking lot, and now you're using this and the price is the same, but you're actually able to do it cheaper as far as cost goes? So is that a way, or how has that moved?
Honestly, a few clients have been receptive to it. We've had a few clients ask for it now that they know that we're doing it. As far as I know, we are the only company in our town that is currently doing it. I know one other company dabbled in it last winter, but I haven't seen them doing it this winter. It's not something that we've given our clients the option. We just sell them on de-icing service, and we use the best equipment and best product that we can. In our opinion, the liquid brine is the best way to go.
Prices have stayed the same though. So someone that had services 2 years ago, their prices continued to increase a little bit. We haven't given them a price break because our costs are starting to go down. Because at the end of the day, we still have the maker and everything. So
Sure.
they're still getting the same service. You know, we have a hospice in Peterborough that we look after, and they love it because they don't have the ice melt tracking through the building anymore, and all the mats and all the cleaning. So a lot of people actually prefer it.
So this guy is definitely a moneymaker for you.
Yes. Nobody's asked us for a deal or a break. And frankly, when you take the equipment into consideration, it is cheaper, but there was a big upfront investment. The fact that we can do a better job and a quicker job is what we sell them on. And if we can do that, then they don't seem to ask as far as the price goes.
Sure. As long as they get the same value.
Yes.
This looks like the manufacturing part of it, of how you make it.
It is.
That's very cool.
Some of our friends down in the States again, in my opinion, are leaders in the brine industry. So we got this maker from VSI. We can make about 3,000 gallons an hour, and we have enough storage on hand for about 16,000 gallons. So
Wow.
that's enough for about 3 events for us. And then we can just work away at replenishing our stock.
Tell us about this endeavor. This is new, right?
It is.
So this was a new endeavor. Actually, 2 of our managers had the idea. Last fall was a little slow. We got our cleanups done quickly. We didn't have snow, and they're like, hey, let's sell Christmas trees. So we kind of jumped in. Of course, it was late in the season to be trying to find Christmas trees. So, but the guys found a couple places that were willing to sell some trees. We picked up some trees. Some of our awesome construction guys made some wood reindeers and wooden snowmen. And we just kind of dabbled in that, and it was actually a great success. We had, I think, 4 trees left over at the end. With, you know, we bought 70, we had 4 trees left over. We sold, I think we have a few snowmen and a few reindeer, but and we had some pictures, we had some wreaths. It was great. People were like, you know, is this your first year? So hopefully, if we do it again this year, which we're planning on, we'll have repeat customers, and you know, the word will get out more for us.
That's awesome. And you have some team that you need to, I'm not sure if that feedback is me or who, but I apologize if it is. You guys have some team members that are, you know, full-time 12 months out of the year employees anyways, right? And so this was a good opportunity for them to be able to do some more billable work in a sense, and then you can retail this out. So I think that was really smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, the majority of our staff is salaried year round, just because we need them on call in the wintertime. So it was nice just to keep them engaged and keep everybody, you know, coming into work and in a routine.
Absolutely. That's awesome. I would have picked up one of those reindeer if I was close to you, that's for sure. All right. Let's talk on profit first a bit. This is kind of one of the last sections inside our webinar today. And like I said, I'm going to mention it one more time. If anybody has any questions for Ryan and Nicole, please message them into the chat. Would love to be able to send a few their way. But so you guys are implementing profit first in your business now. Tell us a little bit about that, and how has it changed your thinking? And I know it's fairly new, but are you seeing any rewards so far?
Yeah, so it was, we started working with Adam and Sarah. We both read the book, and we were both kind of like, this is amazing. We need to implement this. I'm the one that kind of looks after the numbers with the bookkeeper and accountant. So I see, you know, the numbers going up, the numbers going down. Ryan always comes to me and says, we have to have this piece of equipment. And I'm always the brakes, and eventually most of the time he wins. But this has kind of opened his eyes to be like, oh, okay, like we have a lot of overhead. So, you know, what can we have that we can use 12 months of the year? You know, this year is coming up, we're leasing some trucks, and we need to look at getting new trucks, and we're more, it's not what I like, it's what can we use that we can save money on. So he's been actually working hard on that. And we've been looking at cutting overhead where we can, you know, getting sales up, making sure the jobs that we are doing is more profitable. But the big money gets moved all around to pay bills and tax and payroll and everything, but there's this account called profit, and that profit goes in there, and at the end of each quarter you get a little bit of a bonus. And Ryan and I got a bit of a bonus this last month, and we got some gym equipment for our home, so we're kind of taking care of ourselves now and getting a little bit healthier, and we're already thinking.
I think we got you guys frozen, but what I was just gonna, there you are. Now you're back. You froze for a second. But if anybody isn't familiar with Profit First, it's a cash flow system that when implemented, you open up a series of separate bank accounts, and you allocate certain percentages of funds to those bank accounts. And typically when you start your money, typically when you start implementing Profit First is your business is at a certain point. And what we do as certified Profit First professionals is we help landscape business owners transition from where they currently are in their business to hopefully a much healthier state. The cool thing about Profit First is there's really no more looking at a profit and loss statement or a balance sheet or anything like that. It's all about looking at your bank account and how much money you have in there. And so through analyzing your financials, we help business owners get the cold hard cash that they deserve directly in their bank account, and that's how they can gauge their business.
Just on that, for me, I can handle numbers, and I like working with numbers, especially when it comes to trying to figure out equipment or projects or problems. But looking at profit and first and balance sheets and whatever is not my thing. Going to the accountant or bookkeeper, I kind of glaze over, and just, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and I'd have to put a lot more effort into it. And when you don't know your numbers, things can get out of control. I used to think, an extra $100 a month payment, I'm like, oh, I can just go and make an extra $100 to pay for that, but that's really not the case. You need to make an extra couple $1,000s to pay for that $100 payment. So it can sneak up on you pretty quick. Transitioning to Profit First and being able to see the numbers very quickly and very easily, it really lets you make those decisions smarter.
Love it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just, at the end of the day, I used to do all the bookkeeping, and Ryan would ask for the profit and loss, and he'd be like, why isn't this money in the bank account? It's like, well, we have this and we have this, and I'm not an accountant, so I can explain it. By the end of the year, the accountant looks at you and says, oh, you guys did good, you got good profit. And it's like, but why isn't it in the bank account? So this kind of dumbs it down, and it shows you where you should be for your operating expenses, your payroll, your owner's compensation, your tax, your profit. So it's just much better for us anyway.
And when you can take a profit, it's a great thing.
That's right.
Well, it pushes you to do more, to try to cut expenses to get a bigger profit. So it's been good.
It brings clarity also.
Absolutely.
Yes. All right, I got one question here, and that's from Andrew Graw. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your last name correctly, Andrew. I apologize if not, but here's a question from Andrew for you guys. From a growth perspective, how do you find and retain people with the skills needed for your landscape construction jobs? And then he has in parentheses here, especially in geographical regions where work isn't consistent year-round, so retention becomes a concern.
It may not work for everybody, but like we said, the majority of our staff is on salary. So they get the same paycheck every 2 weeks, 12 months of the year. We are fairly busy with snow in the wintertime. So they are guaranteed work 12 months of the year. Having said that, it's nothing to go for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks in the wintertime with no work. But if they know that they've got a paycheck, they can put food on the table, pay the mortgage, everybody seems to be fairly happy. We have had the odd bump in the road where, they average 25 hours a week in the wintertime, and then all of a sudden April rolls around and you get busy and they're working 55 hours a week and they don't think they're making as much money as they should, and they don't remember sitting at home for 3 weeks, and you gently have to remind them that. But most times it works out for both people, for the employee and for us as well.
Having said that, up until last year, employee retention was our hardest thing. Like, we have some employees that have been with us for years now, but some of our guys from last spring, this is their first winter with us. It has been a problem because, especially with, the way things are right now, and people can sit at home and collect some government money, people don't want to work. So finding people is hard. It's, we always pay above minimum wage. We try to, pay with other compensation. We have health benefits that kick in after a year. We have RSPs that kick in after 2 years. We usually have, staff barbecues every once in a while. We try to do a staff party once a year. And at the end of the day, we try to be a pretty good workplace. We have a pretty good crew right now. Everyone gets along great. So It's hard, but it takes time, but you will get there eventually. It's been years for us to get a good rounded group like we have now.
And back to what Adam and Sarah said earlier, as far as time, like whether it be our time or our manager's time, if you have a whole bunch of turnover and you're training people on equipment and your clients, and the way you expect a project or a job or the meeting to be done, it's all time and it takes away from it. So if we can find good staff that gives you a good consistent effort most days, it takes less time than having continuous turnover.
Absolutely. And with you doing like the Christmas trees and some of those decorations and whatnot, I mean, that was a great add-on that it may not be something that a construction worker that you hire that's doing landscape construction necessarily loves, but that's another, like you said, that's another great option to be able to add on some revenue to team members that you already have in place and there for the season.
Some of them had quite a bit of fun doing it too, right? Like, traipsing out to the bush to cut down a birch tree so you could make a snowman, and you just have to make the best of it.
Mm-hmm. Craig asked, do you guys have someone in charge of hiring, or is that done in-house by you guys?
So it's done in-house. We use a few different sources as trying to find applicants. There's a local job placement agency in town. We use Indeed. Part of Landscape Ontario has a hiring section. Nicole and I used to be involved with most of the hiring, and we're trying to step back from that right now and let our operations manager and our horticultural manager do all the interviewing and hiring, because they will be the supervisors for those people and work with them most closely. So it's better that they get the right feeling on the right candidate.
Absolutely. That was something that we always did, is I would typically do the interviewing and the actual hiring, but I definitely would bring in my sales manager and our operations manager all in to be able to meet them and kind of interview them separately as well. Because at the end of the day, they need to be happy with them, because they're interacting with them probably more than I am on a regular basis. That's a good point.
Exactly.
All right. Anything else you guys have before we wrap up, Ryan, Nicole? No?
Just keep trying. Obviously, everybody's putting forward a good effort to take the time to, watch a webinar like this. Just keep reaching out to your peers. Whether it's local, I see a few familiar faces on the group today and some faces and names that we've never seen before. But whether it's local or far away, just communicate with people and use people as resources to learn and better yourself.
You're constantly learning. So, I mean, our business isn't perfect by any means, but I mean, we're taking the time to try to better our skills and learn every day. So.
Absolutely. I think a good place to be able to network is, some of these Facebook groups, whether you join my Facebook groups or others, whatever, but just connect with people and ask questions and do some Zoom meetings and whatnot, but definitely a good place. And I know you guys are in our Profit First for Landscapers Facebook group. So if anybody has interest in joining, come on in and we'll chat. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Have a great rest of your Tuesday and be safe. And we'll talk to you everybody next time.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.